The Plein Air Easton Podcast is brought to you by the Avalon Foundation, enriching the lives of those on the Eastern Shore of Maryland through the arts. Visit avalonfoundation.org for details on events, performances, and educational programming offered throughout the year. Today's episode is sponsored by JFM Enterprises, providing distinctive ready-made and custom frames and moldings to the trade since 1974. Visit jfm.net to view their catalog of designs.
Welcome to the Plein Air Easton Podcast. Today's episode, we talked about a special collaboration that we have with the Land Conservancy that we have had for several years now, but it has culminated in a very exceptional exhibition.
Absolutely. No, we finally got some of our farm collection and some of our paintings that were produced with the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy up in an exhibition at the State House in Annapolis. So we get to talk to Carol Bean, who works for the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy today, about the exhibition. But I think that the takeaway or the meditation or the thought or the intention from this podcast, especially if you're an artist or if you're an art administrator, is how can you use art as an advocacy tool to get your opinions out there, to press for the things that you love and need, and to tell the story about the places that you care about. So listen up.
Yay, I'm so excited. My name's Marie Nuthall, and I am here today with my friend Jess Bellis, and today our special guest, Carol Bean.
Hello.
Yay! Hi, Carol. So, yes, Carol, talk to us about where you're from, and then we'll expand and talk about why we decided to have a conversation today.
Sure. I'm Carol Bean. I originally hail from California, but I've been here for about 25 years, living in Talbot County and Whitman, between St. Michael's and Tillman, where my husband works as a commercial waterman. And I used to run farmers markets. We have a small farm. And about 7 years ago, I transitioned to working for Eastern Shore Land Conservancy, having developed a incredibly fond appreciation for our working waters and farmland in the region. So it's an honor to work there to advance protecting it.
Can you explain to people who don't know what the Eastern Land Conservancy does?
Sure. It's the biggest private land trust in Maryland. So we just celebrated our 35th anniversary. We work between Kent County and Dorchester County. We're mostly known for the conservation easements that we do, which protect working lands primarily. Probably 68% or so of the land that we've protected is prime farm soils or farms of statewide importance. So we are really active in the agricultural space, but we also work to create public parks, state parks, trails, and then we work to advance kind of smart growth in our towns.
Can you talk to me about what the word land trust means or what protected lands mean? I think that there are a lot of people who maybe think that they understand what those words mean, but can you dig a little bit either deeper or dumb it down? Maybe it's more like dumb it down.
Yeah. Oh, I'm the woman for the job.
Why does farmland need protection if it is farmland?
Because it's, especially on the Eastern Shore, sort of flat, open space is highly desirable for development.
Got it. And when you say development, that means houses, shopping malls,
right, all of it.
Build a building on it.
Yeah, all of it.
Okay.
All of it, which permanently converts the farmland. And the reason we have so much productive farmland here on the Eastern Shore is because it's highly productive soils. So dirt isn't just dirt. It's not all the same. So prime farm soils, and that's why there's a designation of statewide importance of soils. The Eastern Shore really has those in abundance, and we produce about 74% of the agricultural sales for the state of Maryland. And agriculture is the number one commercial industry. So it's something that's incredibly special and worth protecting. So what we do with easements,
I think that is so interesting because I also think that when if you were to say, Jessica, what is a protected property? I immediately start thinking about like marshland or like forests. Like my first leap is not to the agriculture space.
And working,
maybe that's ignorant
because they continue to be working farms,
yes,
right?
Right. You think of it as being like this land
like
needs
hands
to
off.
be untouched.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So I bet a lot of people probably think that. And to be sure, we protect all the other things that you mentioned too. And those are all really important parts of the ecosystem that makes our region so special. So all of those pieces are really, really important. But the farmland piece is also terribly important. So what we basically do is that we work with a landowner. Typically what it will mean is that you're buying the development rights. So that's what an easement will do. It's transactional. You buy development rights off of a property, and then it is then permanently protected. So you can work with an individual landowner to customize it to what they want to see on their land. So it's not one size fits all. So you can reserve certain parcels for development. Those just won't be included in the easement. But it means a conservation easement is a permanent protection, and it transfers with the land. So if ownership changes, those protections still govern the property.
Got it. I appreciate that background. I mean, I think that it's just kind of like, again,
where you're just kind of zipping along.
Well, I think that people who don't swim in the advocacy space, or even like, I consider myself sort of like eco-friendly or whatever, it can get like sort of broadly defined as like, oh, that's an environmental thing.
Yeah.
And I think that like the work of the Land Conservancy is more specific than that, but the work of like conservation is bigger than I think people who don't give it thought know, if that makes sense.
Completely does.
So before we really got to know Carol Bean, and I want to give her a shout out, there is somebody who works for the Land Conservancy. Her name is Caitlin Fisher.
She's been a guest on the podcast.
Yep, she is out on maternity leave right now, but she is really the one who reached out. We had actually done some work with the Land Conservancy really on at Plein Air Easton, and then our partnership didn't fall away, but I think we just kind of went in different directions. And a few years ago, Caitlin and Marie and I sat down over coffee and just sort of brainstormed how we might work together. And we've sort of established this beautiful kinship since then, and had some great paintouts and started to create some real work and some real opportunities. I know that the Land Conservancy, if you go to their website, which is ESLC.org, you're going to see a lot of the paintings that have been produced with Plein Air Easton, because they're really using that art as a tool. Something that I feel like is kind of crazy is Caitlin worked like a job, in part because it is a job, to try and get some of the work that was created as part of our partnership into an exhibition to put in front of some of our elected officials. And she worked it and she worked it and she worked it and she worked it, and she hit no's and workarounds and brick walls at every turn. Am I characterizing this correctly, Carol?
Yeah, I mean, we were, like you said, we've used the artwork. It's been a great resource for us to put sort of a different spin on the work that we do and reach a different audience and tell the story in a little bit of a different way. And since I work in Annapolis doing policy work, I always stop and admire the artwork that's in the walls of the State House and the General Assembly buildings. And, you have a lot of time that you're spending there and waiting for meetings and hearings and things like that. So I've always appreciated the art that's hung there. So I had the idea to do this and ask Kate to try to make it happen. And it was yeoman's work for sure.
And we didn't think it was going to happen.
No.
We held on to a lot.
Didn't.
So
we were kind of sitting with no for a little while.
This is a story of tenacity. For those who are in our space, you don't always get to yes immediately.
No.
And so we had a lot of our artists keep some artwork in our care from last year's festival in hopes that we might be able to travel this exhibition. And we really thought that the ship had passed and that this was not our year. And then a couple days after Christmas, I feel like we got a call from Carol So if you guys are still in, I think we can jump in and make a really cool exhibition happen.
Yes.
So Carol, will you talk a little bit about the exhibition that we've pulled together and how it's being used?
With pleasure. I'm so thrilled and so appreciative to you guys for making it happen, because it was last minute scramble to get it done. And all of us were just not taking no for an answer. We were determined to make it happen. So we have the exhibition from the paintings from last year that we collaborated with you all on, and those were all properties that were painted using a funding source that we use a lot for conservation called Program Open Space. And so when we had the permission, then I also approached you guys if we could add some of the agricultural paintings from your collection, because as we discussed earlier, that's a really key piece for us, the work that we do on the Eastern Shore that wasn't kind of represented in that exhibit. And so we got it all together and hung it up there in the Senate building in a great location. It's outside the committee that hears all the environmental issues bills. So it's a beautiful exhibit, and it's just been an opportunity for me as an advocate to, instead of walking into a legislator's office with, here's my fact sheet and my charts and my data, it's a really different way to get people to connect with the issue. They're literally seeing it, even though it's inside in a building, you're literally seeing the landscapes that have been protected using this funding source. And I think it captures their imagination, and it's just a different, more human way to engage with the legislators than your flip sheet of facts.
Yeah, it's really a different way to engage with the art too.
I think so too. I think that one of my takeaways from being a part of this exhibition there is the immense pride and place that our elected officials and others from the shore really have, and how much these paintings really sort of ignite that pride and place. I think that's something for artists to really think about and remember as they travel to different plein air festivals, or as they're painting in new places, just how important their work is in terms of elevating and connecting and celebrating the place that they're in, and the pride and excitement of, these are paintings of the Eastern Shore. They feel very much like the Eastern Shore. They feel like those properties. And that's certainly the feedback that I've been getting from some of our elected officials. So I'm going to flip this a little bit and say, let's talk about art as an advocacy tool. I think it's interesting that we're sitting here with somebody who, like Carol just said, I'm somebody who works in the policy space, right? So how can an artist use their artwork to tell stories, or how is art an important tool in terms of being able to help advocate?
Well, I think it's like I said, it just hits differently, right? It just connects you on a more human, kind of visceral place that the data doesn't, right? That's just a drier form, right? We're up there talking about budgets and funding formulas, and the art just makes it real, right? Especially the plein air stuff, because it's a real space.
Yeah, it's not imaginary.
Yeah, and I think what I love about this exhibit, connecting it with the conservation, is to me like a painting is capturing a place in time, but because these are all paintings of preserved properties, that's not going to change over time, because these are permanently preserved properties.
Right.
So it's not just it's a snapshot in time, but
it's the opposite of
but
the
not.
Vanishing landscape. I was totally thinking of that same category for painting that we had for so many years, was capturing vanishing landscapes. So it's very popular.
Yeah.
Also sponsored by Bruce Wiltie, and and it was capturing the history of a building that wasn't going to be there very much longer, right. Or a landscape feature that was going to change in the coming years. So
I think this gives people an opportunity to celebrate, like for legislators to celebrate what this program does, what it accomplishes. So knowing that this landscape is staying this way because you've funded this important conservation program. Mm-hmm. It's not just, here's this pretty picture we're looking at today. It's like coupled with this other knowledge that the work that they're funding is permanently protecting it. And I think that's powerful.
I think so too. I mean, it's land that they possibly drive by on their way home, or you know what I mean? Like, it should speak to their heart.
So I know that we have a lot of artists who listen to this podcast, and I think like one of the reasons why we thought it would be interesting to talk to Carol today is, in times when you might be feeling like helpless or overwhelmed by the world, you really do have a tool available to you as an artist to be able to tell a story about a place or a time or how you're feeling. The Avalon Foundation, I'll say, is a nonpartisan, non-political organization. We really play in the space of art, and we are not for or against any causes. That said, we can recognize things like how programs like Program Open Space do affect us, because without the open spaces, without these landscapes, without the sort of beauty of the environment that we have here in Talbot County, how could we be the hosts of Plein Air Easton?
Right.
So like we can sort of leave that there without bias and just say, gosh, we're really glad that these beautiful places exist. And now we have these artists that have created these assets that can tell stories. And if you are one of those artists, you can think to yourself, whatever the cause is, again, is my art advocacy? And if it is, do I want to use that tool? Mm-hmm. And I think that is like kind of an interesting thing to meditate on, because I don't think that is the catalyst behind creating the art to begin with. Does that make sense? Like I don't think that most of our plein air artists are like, I need to paint this agricultural scene because of its importance in food making or soil preservation, but at the same time, they're creating a tool that could be used for that.
But that's true, I think, in a lot of different arenas. Like, that's partly why, right? And you sort of reference this, why like the tourism economy and our outdoor recreation economy are reliant on having a certain type of landscape. So
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean you're going to be farming anytime in the near future, right? But you are benefiting that. We are all benefiting that and I think that's the other point that to really make to legislators, like preserve properties or preserving the working farms and important farm soils, and providing water quality benefits with protection measures that we implement. And but it has these other really important impacts in rural economies, particularly, right? It's not just, if you're a tourist, you're coming here, you're just admiring the pretty view and the opportunity, and not just admiring it. I think people need it.
Right, sure.
They need it.
Yeah.
They need to come and take a breath.
Well, and like every summer they escape through, you know what I mean? They leave their towns and come over to our wide open spaces and,
And if we look just like every other suburb, right? Then why make the drive?
Yeah, well, and we're talking about the Maryland state economy. We're talking about Maryland state advocacy in this moment, but the same thing could play out differently for an artist based in Colorado. Like there are plenty of places who have protected properties, but there are also plenty of places that have beautiful natural landscape that the stakeholders who are there don't want changed, or that shouldn't be changed because it's unique to their character. And I think, again, sitting in a spot of saying, okay, I'm an artist, now what? Is a question an artist could be asking themselves.
Yeah, it's a big question.
Carol, do you want to talk any more specifically about the program or project Open Space and what it is?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, it makes it sound like it's one program. It's really the umbrella program.
Right. It's a tax.
For all kinds of conservation programs.
A funding vehicle.
So what it is, it derives from the transfer tax, which is when a property is sold, you pay a small percentage that goes or is supposed to go to fund these conservation programs, and that's sort of broadly defined. That is, it could be recreational facilities, sports facility, like outdoor recreation. It's trails. It goes to our heritage areas. Certainly farmland preservation, like it encompasses all kinds of different programs. It's state parks, local parks. So it's funding all sorts of things, even though it's, sort of one program.
Right.
It does multiple, it achieves that through multiple objectives. That sort of, and I think importantly, that it's in every single community across the state. So we maybe do more farmland preservation because of our area compared to some other areas. Maybe they use it more for small parks and recreational facilities, and it's probably used differently in different areas.
Right.
But it is in every single town, every single county throughout the entire state. So it's one of the few things that is a program that has a lot of bipartisan support. Because even if you're, not the biggest fan or don't care too much about one program that doesn't speak to you, there's another one that does. Like, it touches everybody at some point. One of these programs is something that people can feel passionate about.
Affects all of us, for sure.
And you feel like that funding is under threat?
So there has been a history when the budget is tight, where this funding gets sort of raided and diverted elsewhere to fund to make up for budget gaps. So in the past, that's happened, 16 million, probably more than that.
Wow.
So a lot of funding has been stripped away. And what we saw happen last year, which were a serious budget deficit last year that they had to make up, the transfer tax money was really targeted. And so there was a proposal to take all of the funding for 4 years, all of it for all programs.
Oh, yeah.
And so because it affects so many people across the state and so many diverse stakeholders, there was really like a huge outcry about it.
Right.
And so most of that money was ultimately put back into it. And the pieces that were most impacted were the farmland preservation pieces. So I think that's still, problematic and probably disproportionately affects regions like ours.
Got it.
Losing that funding. Mm-hmm. So that has been cut back for 4 years. But the budget this year, the initial outlook is sort of holding steady. So we've still lost that funding for the 4 years for the farmland preservation piece. So we're advocating for, as soon as humanly possible, when the budget allows, to reinstate that funding, and at least in the interim to be, educating members about how important the farmland preservation piece is for rural economies like ours.
Right. I think that's just terrific. I mean, again, I'm so grateful for our Land Conservancy partnership. We have Bruce Wiltsey and Bill Davenport are two great funders. They've supported the Land Conservancy, and they've certainly supported Plein Air Easton from its inception. And it is through their sort of visionary donations that we were able to fund this partnership out of the jump. But we're so proud to have our exhibition at the State House. It'll run through most of February. Mm-hmm. And so if you find yourself in Maryland, take a look. But if not, we're going to have some great pictures for you. Carol, before we say goodbye, do you have anything else that you feel like you want to say?
Well, again, I just wanted to thank you guys for all your help in making this actually happen, under overcoming some obstacles to get it to happen. And encourage people that, if you're not able to make it to Annapolis, there are ways, and you're interested in this issue, there are ways to connect with your legislator and to talk to them about this funding source and why it's important. So I certainly advocate for that.
If you're an artist, use your artwork as the entry point to do it.
Yeah,
because,
and advocate for some pretty big issues.
Yeah, I think that the art opens a lot of doors and creates a lot of conversation. So thank you for joining us in this conversation today.
Absolutely.
The Plein Air Easton Podcast is brought to you by the Avalon Foundation and was produced by Nick Richards. Our theme music was generously provided by Blue Dot Sessions. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. You can learn more about Plein Air Easton at pleinaireaston.com.